with episode 8 of the Geeky Pastimes podcast. Okay, apologies if you got a notification for episode 9. There was some weirdness with YouTube where it sent my stream to the wrong bloody thing. Learned my lesson on that one. Anyway, how's it going? Hope you had a good Easter weekend. It still technically is Easter weekend, I think. It's Easter Monday right now. But I don't worry about bank holidays too much. I thought I'll come on live, be ready to stream. I'm going to be missing Friday this week because we're going to go to the Pokemon European Championships, I think, down in London. So yeah, I thought I would hop on, even though it's a bank holiday, ready to do this. I'd be interested to know in chat, let me know what you've been playing over this weekend, what's been going on for the last few days. I'd be very interested to hear about that. I've been playing quite a lot of Call of Duty, actually. Surprisingly, like, since they've announced Season 3, it's kind of reinvigorated me a little bit. I played a little bit of Ranked over on twitch.tv/Geeky Pastimes, so Ranked Call of Duty. Only the third time I played that. The first time I played it, played 2 games. We did terribly, lost both those games, didn't want to play it again. Then I did a bit more solo, so I was playing by myself, and did fairly well. Like, we, got up to, like, rank 3, I want to say, and got up to, like, bronze 2 or something, and was, fairly happy doing some wins. And then yesterday, managed to win 7 games in a row. So I hopped on, lost 2 games immediately, which wasn't great, but then won 7 games in a row, which I didn't expect to happen. So I was enjoying that quite a lot. Managed to get up to silver. Managed to get rank 5, which means I get, like, the ranked skin and stuff, which was the thing I really wanted. I wouldn't mind getting ranked up to gold, so there's, like, a possibility that I'll end up playing a bit more ranked before Wednesday, because I'm assuming all the ranks get reset with a new season. But yeah, I'm umming and ahhing about maybe going up and trying to get to gold, but we'll see. It's like, it requires quite a lot. When you're playing solo, you kind of need to find a team that are willing to communicate and are fairly good, and then are willing to invite you in to keep on going. That's what happened yesterday. Like, we won a game by, there was only 3 of us. Like, it was 3v4 was the first game I won yesterday. Someone else quit straight away in our game, and we sit, like, literally in the first round, and we still managed to bring it back and win. So then, like, I added them as friends, and they invited me, and then we could keep on playing. It didn't really matter about the random, because even just 3 of us, we were winning quite a lot. So yeah, that was really, really good. And then I've also played a little bit of Battle Royale, like me and Namego and Arrow played some. Didn't get any wins, sadly. But I played a bit of Resurgence, and that was quite good fun. And then I haven't really played anything else. I wanted to play Path of Exile last night, but I didn't manage to download the update in time. It was one of those stupid, annoying things that maybe will be the topic of a future video. But it's like, me and my wife were both sitting downstairs, and we're like, oh, I don't know what to play, sort of a bit restless, trying to work out what games to play. And then my wife decided to load up her DS and was playing something on a 3DS, and it was just, a matter of turn on the 3DS, which, hasn't been turned on probably for years. Turned it on, could immediately start playing. I decided to load up my Steam Deck, play a bit of the new season of Path of Exile, load it up, 9GB update. And it's like, oh, okay, I'll wait for this to be done. And by the time it was done, I didn't really want to play anymore. And it's like, that must be so many people's experience of games, like Call of Duty and stuff. The number of times that there's massive patches, you're looking at sort of 40GB patches every month. And then even within that, you sometimes get quite big, smaller patches. And so many modern games, so many of these live service games, it's like, you just load it up and then you do it. And I know there's ways around, if you leave your PC on or you leave your consoles in the rest mode that uses a lot of energy, then it can auto-download stuff. But it's like, you don't really want to do that, do you? Like, you don't really want to be using all of that electricity just so when you actually want to play a game, the game is ready for you. It just kind of sucks. Is there really no sound, David? Because everyone else is seemingly fine and is replying to me. I think that might be David's end. Can someone say in chat that it's his end? Because it looks to me like there should be sound. But yeah. So, just quickly going through chat, what people have been saying. Michael Ward's been playing Hell Let Loose again. I'd say Hell Let Loose is one of the games that I played in the free weekend. I don't think I actually own the game. Or I might have bought it in a sale, I don't know. But I definitely, I played it when it did the free weekend. Me and Namego and Arrow played it. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. Like, I won't pretend that, like, we were good at it or we really understood everything that was going on. But, like, we definitely enjoyed it. It was tense. It was atmospheric. It seemed really cool and, like, not really like anything else other than maybe, Squad, I guess. It was quite similar to that. But yeah, really enjoyed it. And then when the free weekend ended, I've never played it again. Don't know why. Just haven't gone back to it. And a bit too much DMZ. Yeah, I'm kind of leaving DMZ. Me and Broken Machine played a bit of DMZ on Friday, I think it was. And it was just boring. It was weird. Like, it wasn't because I was playing with Broken. It was just like something's happened with DMZ, which is kind of going to be partly the topic of tomorrow's video, but tomorrow's podcast. But like, there weren't any bots. It was weird. Like, people have been talking about, oh, you know, it's too much AI, it's too dangerous and stuff. We were playing, and we played on both Al Mazrah and Ashika Island, and like there just weren't any AI about. Like, it was crazy. Like, the amount of time we would spend, like literally 10 minutes at a time, of going around doing missions for him and barely getting in a single fight. Occasionally we'd fight against operators and stuff, and if we looked for operators, then we could get some fights with them. But the sort of general level of action was just incredibly low, to the point where it was just like, oh, we're just driving around an empty Al Mazrah getting missions done. It was bizarre how slow it was. So yeah, that was a bit tedious. And then like we played one game of Resurgence with him, and then that was like much, much more fun. So it was like, I don't know if maybe over the weekend something was broken in DMZ, or there was some new bug, or we just had incredible luck. But we were playing for like 3 hours. Like 3 hours of games. Like, it wasn't like one isolated game. It was like 3 hours of steady games, where every game it was super, super quiet. It was really strange. As I've said a million times, and again, topic of tomorrow's podcast, so make sure you tune in at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. As I've said a million times, there's a problem with DMZ that if they ever make it too easy, it's going to kill it. It's going to kill the game. And you don't want that. You don't want that. Well, so I'm just deleting the old podcast. The podcast number 9 that was delete forever. And cancel. Oh, I can actually make the new one and then I'll do it. But yeah, it was very, very strange situation where if it becomes too easy, then it just becomes boring. Like, it just becomes tedious, and you don't want that. Just setting this up for tomorrow. There we go. Instead, you want it to be tricky, you want it to be hard, you want it to be punishing, you want it to be so like people feel the need that they need to gear up and stuff like that before they go in, and you want it to be like punishing for if stuff goes wrong. Like, you want it to be really, really tricky. So if like they go in and they're not prepared, or if they go in and it just like they're a little bit unlucky, then it kills them. Like, that would be better. Right, delete this. Delete forever. Yes, yes. There we go. Just sorting out the videos because it was all messed up. But yeah, so I genuinely think they should make DMZ a little bit harder. I genuinely think like they could do with adding more of the boss type enemies, adding more AI that roam around the map, like, you know, the vehicles where they're driving around the vehicles, stuff like that. And I'm sure there's loads of technical reasons why they probably can't do stuff like that. That's probably very much a thing. But I would still enjoy it if they did at least a little bit of it. So anyway, what other things are people saying? Harlow Terror said he finished off the Modern Warfare 2 event camos yesterday. Oh, cool. I was thinking about doing that, and then I saw someone using it, and I didn't like it, so I didn't bother. I'm miles away. I think I finished like one category because I've only been using one type of gun for ages. I did do some platinum challenges yesterday in Warzone in Modern Warfare 2. I finished off the sniper rifles, so I did the LAB and the SPX, and I did the M13 and the ISO. I've got those finished now. And then I was thinking about whether to carry on. I think I'm on like 27 out of 51 now. So it's kind of, I've done over half of them on platinum. And now it's just like, do I want to carry on doing the others? I might do, because it's like, it's not a bad thing to do just when you're like not paying attention. I tried doing the Baz P, and like, Jesus, it's hard to do SMGs. Like, SMG long shots are so hard sometimes, just because it's like you can't do enough damage to kill someone. I don't know whether it'd be better if I was doing it on hardcore, maybe. And yeah, like running around trying to do that. I was trying to do it on ground. I tried to do it on shipment, but it's like there's not enough places where you can get like really far away from them. And then I tried doing it on ground war, and I was just struggling to kill people. So I did the sniper rifles, because sniper rifles are easy. So I did all of that. Madago said, had to go at some Warzone, not sure about it. Witcher 3 and Halo Infinite. Witcher 3 is really good. I still haven't ever finished the DLC. I know people always say it's amazing. I started playing Blood and Wine and just kind of lost interest a bit because I played through Witcher 3 like when it came out. And then I struggled to go back to it because I do think like Witcher 3, we'll talk, this comes on to our topic for the day really. What's the best game of all time? Or looking at some of the best games of all time. And The Witcher 3 is one of those where it's like, it definitely was amazing. I'm not sure if it's amazing now. Like, there's a lot of things in it that are really good. You know, the story's fun. The world has some interesting locations and interesting, like, environmental storytelling. A lot of the side missions are really good, obviously. But the combat isn't that great. And I really hate the way items work in The Witcher, where it's like it's one of those games where you're constantly getting items and they never change the way you play dramatically, but they're always like slightly better than what you had before. So you're constantly having to juggle it, but it never feels like, oh my god, I got this cool item that's now going to be amazing. I think that's the wrong way to do itemization in games. I genuinely think games that have loot and games that have equipment, they're much better off having fewer but much more meaningful upgrades. If you're going to do something like having tons and tons of loot where it's constantly doing stuff, then I think it's better to go the Diablo route of having those items be dramatically different from each other. You know, like Diablo, I know like the first few hours you start playing, they're just small incremental upgrades to how much strength you have and how much armor you have and stuff like that. But once you get past like probably not even that long, like 5, 6 hours in the game, then you start getting items that have legendary effects, and then each one of those legendary effects changes the way you play the game. It changes one of your abilities fairly dramatically. And that's a much more interesting way of doing it. Having like, you know, plus 2% attack speed or whatever, I just find boring. I find it boring in Call of Duty. You know, I was talking last night when I was playing that like the gunsmith is quite tedious, I find, because so many of the attachments do basically nothing. It's basically impossible to know. Well, not impossible, but basically very hard to notice what effect, you know, a different foregrip's having or something like that. And I know there's people that can tell, and I'm sure they're very happy when they learn that, you know, there's like 1% different amount of horizontal recoil on their gun. But to me, that's really, really boring. I'd much rather have all of the guns be super different to each other, and then you choose, do you want to put a suppressor on? Do you want to put a sight on? Do you want to put an extended mag on? And that be it. Like that, just be done. I think that would be a lot better. Anyway, other things that people are playing or talking about. Sorry, Joe W said you keep your rank. Do you? Is that your rank or is that your division? Because rank I don't really care about anymore now. Now I'm rank 5. I don't care about getting the rewards. The rewards are boring for the rest of it. But the division stuff, I'd quite like it if like, oh, I could, if I stay on silver, so then I could try and get up to gold. That would be pretty good. Mad Truck said he's enjoying Forza 5 and Gears 5 at the moment as you're fed up with COD and DMZ. Yeah, I was playing a little bit of Forza. I was playing their new Rally expansion. I think that's really good. I really like rally games, so that was like enough to bring me back into the fold for Forza Horizon 5. I did kind of spend one evening playing loads of it, and now I'm kind of done. You know, I've like done nearly everything in that expansion in one evening, which probably isn't great. I'm not massively into the multiplayer stuff. It's fine. I played a bit of multiplayer, but I find the way most racing games now, but particularly open world racing games, I find the way they do multiplayer kind of slow and boring. There's like a lot of downtime between races. I don't like the whole thing of like, oh, you're using your custom cars, so some people just have cars that are faster than yours. You know, some people have spent more time tuning, more time selecting parts and stuff like that, and they know which car goes best with which track. And it's not a case of like, oh, they're picking a better car. It's like they just have a better car that you can't have, or that you don't have at that time because you didn't know that track was going to come up. I don't find that as interesting. I prefer racing games where like everyone's using the same car essentially. I find that more fun. But yeah. Oh well. W3 is linked, or which 3 is linked in your library of time? Has a next gen update. Yeah, next gen update's cool. You've been playing Resident Evil 4 remake. Yeah, my wife was playing that last night. I was watching her play some of that. That was good. Forza Horizon 4, you decided to re-download that because it's in the UK. Yeah, Forza Horizon 4 is really good. I think Forza Horizon 4 and 5 are kind of on a level with each other. I don't think Horizon 5 really had much of like a big upgrade. It looks a bit nicer, but that's about it. But it's like, it's just different. I quite like the seasons and everything in Forza Horizon 4. And yeah, it being in the UK means sometimes you'll see like signs and stuff, and you're like, oh, that looks familiar. But I'm more excited about there being Forza Motorsport this year. Really, I'm like really up for that rather than Horizon. Anyway, talking about some of the best games, the very best games. Oh, by the way, if you're listening to this on any of the podcast services, you can see this recorded live at youtube.com/Geeky Pastimes every morning at 9 a.m. I have considered making this a membership only podcast. So not as in you have to listen to it every like you when you listen to it as a podcast, you have to listen to it members only. But I might possibly make it so the live recordings are members only. Just at the 199 tier, so just cheap. Add it as an extra perk to the 199 thing. But just so if people want to listen to this live as it's being recorded, you might have to do that. And then if you don't want to do that, it's fine. You can watch the VOD back. That'll be open to everyone. And people can, obviously, right now, you can listen to this on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts, wherever you want to. It does take a bit longer to get uploaded to them because I have to wait for YouTube to give it to me to download. And then I have to upload it again. So there's a bit of a lag of a day or so before they get uploaded. But they do get uploaded. So yeah, let me know. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. Would you mind if this became a members only thing? I need to make money. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Anyway, what we're going to do today is try to just rank some of the best games of all time. Now, obviously, this is going to be super subjective, and obviously I'm going to miss a bunch of games. I can't possibly talk about every game, but I found a tier list, which I thought was kind of interesting, and it had a lot of games that I thought were really good on it. So I thought, you know what? Let's start ranking some games and probably making some terrible controversial choices, okay? So, here we go. This is the tier maker website. Sorry, there's loads of adverts and stuff, but hopefully they're not going to be too offensive. Just Croatia and game development. There we go. So these are some of the games that we're going to be ranking. I'm going to try and do this quickly because obviously there's a million of them and we've only got about 40 minutes. But I'm going to rank all of the ones that I've played and sort of talk about where they are, talk about, my experiences of them, and let me know in chat what rank you would do for each one as we get to them. So we'll start off with Super Meat Boy. I would give Super Meat Boy a B. I think it was a fun game. It's not really my sort of thing. Like, I'm not massively into, like, speed running. I'm not massively into super hardcore type games, and Meat Boy does get hard as it goes on. But my favorite thing about Super Meat Boy is just how quick it is to restart. Like, when you die, you just immediately restart and give it another go. And I love that as kind of any kind of game where if it's quite hard, if you die, if you can immediately have another go, then I'm fine with it. Like Trials, I really like that you just tap a button, restart straight away. That is spectacular. Then we've got Peggle. Peggle is an A game. Peggle's definitely A rank. If you haven't played Peggle before, I can see why people would be put off by the game art, by the idea of what it is. I think lots of people who played Xbox 360 played Peggle because it was on Xbox Live Arcade, and it's just an insanely good game. I played it, oddly, I think it was the first time I went to Gamescom, I played it there. It was, just one of the things in the Xbox booth that you could play, and I was like, oh, I'll give this weird little game a try. I was like, oh my god, this is actually super addictive. Like, this is super fun. It was like one of the most fun games I played there. And bear in mind, this was a year where I think EA had Battlefield 4 and Titanfall and like Need for Speed. Other companies had like all of these massive games. Xbox also had like the Xbox One being shown off with like Rise, Son of Rome, and stuff like that. But then I saw Peggle and was like, this is super good. Like, genuinely really good fun. If you've never played Peggle before, I strongly suggest you give it a go. There is a sequel, Peggle 2. It's just as good as the first one. We'll have a go. Toy Soldiers, I'm going to say D. I never really liked Toy Soldiers that much. It's like a top-down. I think it's like a sort of real-time strategy game, but maybe you can take control of individual toys. And it's kind of, what it sounds like. Toy soldiers fighting each other on desks and stuff like that. But it was fine. I thought it was a bit clunky. I didn't think it was great. There are some more modern games, by the way. They're not all Xbox 360 games. For some reason, these are at the beginning. Ace Combat 6. Ace Combat 6 I'd put as a C game, like basically with all of the Ace Combat games. Ace Combat games are fun. They're arcadey. They're silly. They have some properly spectacular levels where you're like flying jets inside things and doing some crazy fights where you've got like tons of jets in the air. But they've never been like amazing games. They've never been games that have really held my attention for more than a weekend. Like, they were a lot of fun. If they brought out a new Ace Combat, I would 100% play it. Or even if they brought out a remake, I'd probably play it. The multiplayer sadly gets a bit tedious because you're just like flying around in circles with other people trying to get a missile lock while trying to stop people behind you getting a missile lock. But like there's something about arcade flying jets that's fun. I don't know if anyone remembers, there was an Independence Day game that came out. It definitely came out on PC. I'm not sure if it came out on any consoles. But in that, you were flying jets, like doing, the big dogfight battle above cities that you saw in Independence Day. Then you also did a bit of flying through canyons and stuff. And that was super fun. Again, very, very arcadey, but loads and loads of fun. I really used to enjoy that game. I never really hear people talk about it. Anyway, Ace Combat 7, same thing. I can barely tell the difference. I know Ace Combat 7 was a lot prettier, but I don't really remember much else about it. Alien Isolation, I'm going to say B, and I feel like this might be a controversial one because I know Alien Isolation is a better game than a B. I'm doing all of this as, would I want to play them right now, essentially? That's it. Like, would I want to play these games right now? I'm not doing it in terms of nostalgia. I'm not doing it in terms of anything else. I'm doing it like, how good are these games right now? Alien Isolation did a lot of things incredibly well. It looked amazing. It sounded amazing. It was genuinely frightening, like actually frightening. But it was super long, and it also had parts of it that parts of the way you interacted with the AI, I felt were not organic. Like it didn't feel quite right. It felt like you basically had to find ways to break the alien's AI. And if you look at it now, like any guides on how to play it, which I have done because I've never finished this game because it's quite hard, you like all of them kind of recommend you just doing stuff that breaks the alien's AI, like gets it to like little tricks to stop it from following you. And that to me isn't great. That's not a lot of fun. I think it was ahead of its time in a lot of ways, but I just think I've never been a massive fan of the whole survival horror where you're not fighting back really, you're just kind of hiding and you're sneaking and stuff like that. I find it stressful and I don't find it particularly fun. And Alien Isolation does that, but then does it for like 30 hours or something. It's a long game. I think if Alien Isolation had been much shorter, if it had been like an 8-hour game, I probably would have absolutely loved it. Or if it was a little bit more kind of, I don't know, if the AI, if it was like easier to find ways to like get around the AI. I maybe found it too hard and too long, but that's about it. But it's definitely a good game. It's definitely a scary game. Just right now, not for me. Like, it's a game that I've never finished, and, there's obviously a reason for that. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood is an A. I'm tempted to put it even higher than that. Yeah, maybe. No, I'm going to say an A tier game. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood is one of my favorite Assassin's Creed games. I'm not sure Assassin's Creed Brotherhood or Assassin's Creed 2 are probably my favorite Assassin's Creed games. Just spectacular games. You feel super cool playing through it. The environment is really cool. The story and the setting of the Assassin's Creed 2 trilogy is just amazing. Or quadrilogy, I guess. Is there 4 of them? Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, Assassin's Creed Revelations. Was there another one? I don't know. Anyway, that's probably it. But anyway, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood was just awesome. Just so much fun. I really enjoyed basically everything about the game. It was maybe going, almost in opposition to Alien Isolation. It was maybe verging on too easy because I think it had the parrying and everything in that one where like the enemies would take their shots at you one at a time and you could just stand there parrying like an entire city's worth of guards. They made it a bit easier in Assassin's Creed 1, but that sort of fed into the whole power fantasy thing and I had an awesome time with it. Assassin's Creed 1, I'd probably put down in the C. Assassin's Creed 1 was another one of these games that was spectacular for its first thing. I'm glad, sorry, I just saw Medago just said recruitment owning property in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood was really good. I love that kind of stuff. I loved it in Fable. I love it in Brotherhood where, you can slowly buy like buildings and businesses and then get more of a passive income and then you build that up until you end up with a huge income so then you can buy more buildings until you end up owning like an entire city. I love that stuff. Anyway, the Assassin's Creed 1 at the time was amazing. I loved it. I was just sort of blown away by it. Obviously, the cracks show in it now. If you try playing it now, it doesn't look anywhere near as good. The animation isn't groundbreaking anymore. And the mission design, the mission structure is incredibly repetitive. Like, you're essentially doing the same 3 things over and over again. But the main story missions where you have a target and you're going to try and kill them and you've got to sort of plan a route of how you're going to get to them, how you're going to get out again, that was awesome. That was really, really cool. And the story is still super interesting. All the stuff with Desmond in it was really cool as well, I think. Battlefield 1. I'd say B. Like, Battlefield 1's definitely a good game. It didn't grab me like some of the previous Battlefields did. I think I was quite disappointed when it came out. Looking back on it now, and I mostly see this through the lens of I watch Broken Machine play because, you know, he still really likes Battlefield 1. He still streams it regularly. It's just such a spectacular looking game, and it's so immersive, and it has some really, really cool features that we haven't really seen very much. I thought that was very, very cool. I've put it in B just because it's like I don't play it anymore. Like, I don't go back to it. I know it's a good game, but it just doesn't give me an urge to go back to it. Hardline. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing this to try and make people kick off. Although, as fun as that is, I enjoyed Hardline more than Battlefield 1. And I know there's lots of people that don't like Hardline. I've heard people being like, well, Hardline wasn't really a Battlefield game. I don't care. It was so much fun. I played it a lot with my friends. I really enjoyed the kind of heist side of it. I thought it led to some really cool situations. Trying to get out of the map when you've got all the money and stuff like that was so much fun. The car chases were so much fun. The maps were really cool, and with the zip lines and everything, I just thought Hardline was spectacular. I absolutely loved that game. And it was one of those games, like there's many, where I thought it was brilliant. I loved how different it was. I loved how exciting it was. And then the online reaction to it was so negative that it's like, oh, okay, we're not going to get one of those again because I guess other people have decided that I didn't actually like it, that I wasn't actually having fun with it. But I just thought it was the most fun Battlefield has been since Bad Company 2 to me. I loved Hardline. And I've never understood this whole thing when people say like, oh, but it's not a proper Battlefield game, or like people say with Assassin's Creed Origins and Odyssey and Valhalla, like, oh, it's not a proper Assassin's Creed game, or Star Wars movies, like, no, it's not a proper Star Wars movie, it's not a proper Call of Duty, and it's like, but surely if they're the people making the series, then it is. Like they have the power to change what the series is. Like the Star Wars, if you're a Star Wars fan, you've got to accept that the sequel trilogy exists, that Rogue One and Solo exist, that Clone Wars exists, that Mandalorian exists, Book of Boba Fett. Like all of those things. Sorry, I've got a bloody sneeze every time I'm podcasting. Strange. Is it going to come out? Who knows? That's going to annoy me for ages until it comes out. Whew. No, I need to deal with it. There we go. Bless you in chat, please. Yeah, like with Star Wars, you have to accept that all of those things are Star Wars, and it's fine to say you like some bits of Star Wars. Like that's okay. But to say that, oh, like to just decide that you as a fan somehow have power to reject some part of Star Wars and say like, oh, that's not Star Wars, and it's like that's insane. Like it's a weird entitled gatekeeping type thing that I think like I want to do one of these podcasts at some point about people being entitled. That might be Wednesday's podcast because I find it really, really bizarre. And you see it with Battlefields, you know, it's like Battlefield fans talking as if they get to decide what is Battlefield and what isn't Battlefield. And, you know, you get it with Call of Duty. People being like, oh, well, like, if you took loadouts, that wouldn't be Warzone. Like, that wouldn't be Call of Duty, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, Call of Duty is whatever the developers make it. Like, that's it. All of Call of Duty is Call of Duty. And one of the perks of them being the developers, them being the publishers, whatever, is that they get to decide what is Call of Duty. They have that power. And, you know, they've gone through a whole process to get there. They've been through job interviews. They've gained experience in the industry. They've gone through this whole process to get to the point where they get to define what Call of Duty is. You, as a fan, have just played some games. Like, that's it. You do not get to decide whether what Call of Duty is or what Call of Duty should be or anything like that. And I find, you know, Battlefield Hardline, that was something that people did, that like they just fans, people who enjoy playing it, decided that they got to decide what Call of Duty actually was. And that annoyed me. That like rubbed me up the wrong way. And it's something that has continued to annoy me for a very long time since, which is a shame. Right. We need to hurry up a little bit because I've just spent 10 minutes and I've done, oh, I suppose I've done 10 games. That's not too bad. Right, Black Ops Cold War. B. I would say all Call of Duty games are pretty good. Black Ops Cold War, the multiplayer was cool. It had lots of really cool maps. I like what they were trying to do with zombies. Sorry, I had a flapjack before and I was all stuck in my teeth. I enjoyed what they did with Outbreak. I enjoyed what they did with like the mechanics to zombies changes. I didn't really care for the campaign that much. I didn't really care that much about what they did with the Warzone integration and stuff like that. But the core game was a good game. It was fine. It was a good game. I would happily, if like I had a choice of playing any of these B tier games, I'd probably pick Black Ops Cold War or Super Meat Boy actually. But like I would rather play any of these above it, so I think it deserves to be there. B. Infinite Warfare, I would say B tier. Sorry, A tier. Infinite Warfare, I think, is one of the best Call of Duty games. It was one of the most creative Call of Duty games. They did lots of stuff very, very differently. It had a super cool campaign, super good multiplayer. They tried some fun stuff with zombies, and some of the zombie stuff is actually pretty good. I thought Infinite Warfare was kind of near the peak of Call of Duty for me. And then since then, it's kind of started tumbling down in terms of trying to meet what the fan community wants. I don't know. I feel like Infinite Warfare is probably the best example of doing something their own way and it massively paying off and it being creative and it being interesting and it being exciting. And then since then, it's been kind of getting blander and blander and blander till the point where we have like the situation we have now. And people complain about how bland Call of Duty feels and stuff. And it's like, but then when they did something new and creative, you just were complaining about it all the time and saying it wasn't Call of Duty. It was very annoying. But Infinite Warfare is super, super good. Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, I'm going to say, bear in mind I'm doing this as what it's like now. I'm going to put it as a C. Maybe a D. No, C. It fits in with Assassin's Creed and stuff like that. It probably is a fine game. You could have some fun, like with the remaster and stuff. It's not a game that's aged massively well. Like, the maps are very simplistic. The kill streak thing, I still think, was kind of, it's a good idea, but they've refined it a lot more since. It was ridiculously overpowered. Like, if you could get an attack helicopter back then, it just seemed so insanely powerful. I just thought, the campaign is good. The campaign was a good campaign. It was an interesting campaign. I still weirdly, like, I can barely remember the actual story of Call of Duty 4. Like, I know the main beats of it, but it's like, I can't really remember who the characters were or why they were doing the things that they were doing. Because, a lot of Call of Duty stories are kind of forgettable like that. And because they've released basically the same game over and over and over again. But it was fine. It's fine. Campaign for Modern Warfare is still one of the best in Call of Duty. It has moments. Like, I think it does some of the good standout moments that, like, used to be quite common in Call of Duty. Like, if we did a ranking of Call of Duty campaigns, the first Call of Duty had a really cool campaign and was doing stuff that, like, nothing else was and had some really, like, affecting moments. It was really cool. Call of Duty 2 had a really fun campaign. Call of Duty 4's campaign had some cool moments. But then, like, going past it, like, Black Ops had a good campaign. Advanced Warfare and Infinite Warfare had an awesome campaign. Ghosts had a really good campaign. I really enjoyed the Ghost campaign. And since then, it's all been kind of bad, I think. I think it's been pretty tedious. But yeah, there's some good moments, some good little bits. I would say with Call of Duty 4, a lot of the good moments in it, though, were the bits where you weren't really playing it. Like the nuke going off and even like, what's it called, All Giddied Up. Like, you're barely playing that. Like, you're essentially getting AI telling you exactly what to do. And if you do anything other than the exact thing it tells you what to do, then it just fails the mission for you. There's, like, a lot of stuff in that that's insanely scripted. Like, essentially, it might as well be a cutscene. Like, I don't know. I don't think it holds up as well now, but it was fine. It was fine. Right. Call of Duty Black Ops 4, A tier, mostly because of Blackout and zombies. I think Call of Duty Black Ops 4 was the best zombies for me. I thought they, again, going back to, you'll be able to see a pattern in how I feel about Call of Duty games. It was super creative. The zombie stuff was super creative. They weren't being held back by stuff that had come before, until fans started being like, this isn't Call of Duty Zombies. We want to see Richtofen. Which was very annoying. But it was fun. Blackout was awesome. Just like one of the best modes I've been. I really enjoyed the multiplayer in it. I didn't care there wasn't a campaign because a lot of Call of Duty campaigns are bad. Black Ops 4, one of the best Call of Duties, I think. Absolutely loved it. Up there with Infinite Warfare. Black Ops, I'd put on B. I would say right now, I'd say it's probably better than Modern Warfare. But, bear in mind, Black Ops is quite a lot later than Modern Warfare, so it benefits from a lot of the stuff of the newer kill streaks and better maps. And I thought the campaign was probably better than Call of Duty 4, but yeah, it's fine. It's good. Crisis. Crisis, I'd say is a C. Crisis is still an insanely fun sandbox. That is Crisis 1, isn't it? That's not Crisis 3. It looks a bit like it could be Crisis 3, but we'll pretend that this is Crisis 1. I would say Crisis is a good game. It's not like the best thing in the world, for sure. Is that actually Crisis? Right. Yeah, it is. I think that's Crisis 3, actually. If that's Crisis 3, I'm moving it down to D. I'm just looking at the bottom bit of it. If that, yeah, that is the cover of Crisis 3, isn't it? It's got a city behind it. That's not as interesting. But the Crisis games were fun. It was like, again, story completely pointless, very forgettable. The combat weirdly wasn't that great, but as a sandbox, messing around and just enjoying the pretty graphics and everything, awesome. And that kind of wore off. Crisis 2 and 3 were never as interesting as the first one. Because the first one, you had like this huge island, you had superpowers. It was like nothing that I'd seen before in a game. And it's still really, there's not many games that are like that. Like first-person games where you have superpowers, where you get to run around a nearly entirely destructible island doing stuff. Like, there's not really many games that are like that. Whereas Crisis 2 and 3 became a lot more generic, which is a shame. Dead Rising 2, I'd say was a D. I thought it was a big step down from Dead Rising 1. It was fine. I'm not a big fan of all of the gameplay where, you know, you have time limits to get stuff done. Otherwise, you have to, like, start the campaign again. I didn't find that particularly interesting. And I've never thought the combat in Dead Rising was fun. But the freedom, the way they handle the idea of an open world is very unique, and I thought that's really cool. Destiny, this is, I mean, it says Destiny 1, but I think we can pretty much use this as an adjunct for all of Destiny, is probably S tier. Right, Destiny's an incredible game. I'm saying this is Destiny, like all of Destiny together. Destiny is an insanely good game. And again, very, very creative, not something that had really been done before. And still hasn't been done since. Like, people have tried to emulate it, but they just can't. Like, it's very, very hard. Oh, I can zoom in a little bit. That might make it a bit easier for you guys. Yeah, I think Destiny is just a spectacular thing. It's definitely not got everything right. The story's a little bit too cryptic, maybe, but it is quite a cool story when you get used to it. And they've struggled with the whole live service model. You know, they've had entire years where it's not been as interesting, and then years where it's been absolutely amazing. Right now, the story's not very good, but last year, the story was incredible. So, kind of tough. Right, Dragon Age 2. Dragon Age 2, if we're talking about just Dragon Age 2, then it's a bloody F tier. I thought Dragon Age 2 was terrible. Loved Dragon Age Origins, thought Dragon Age Inquisition was okay. Dragon Age 2 was like, you kept on doing these missions from a hub and going to the same bloody cave over and over again. It was really, really weird. Story is probably fine, but yeah, not amazing. Forza Motorsport 5. Oh, Forza Motorsport. We'll put that up in A. Forza Motorsport's a really, really good game. Just spectacular looking, really solid racing. Out of those kind of track-based games, I don't want to say simulator, because I know people who play iRacing will be like, this isn't really a simulator game. But for that kind of game, I thought it was incredible. I'm really looking forward to a new Forza Motorsport. Forza Horizon 4, yeah, as well, really good. I mean, I'd maybe put it on B tier. I prefer the track-based ones a little bit. My big problem with the open world ones is just that it ends up being something where you get so disconnected from the reality of it. And I don't know, there's something in my head that I would prefer it to be more realistic. Like, I was playing Forza Horizon 5 the other day, like I was saying, and I was like plowing through a forest in a supercar. And I was like, this is nonsense. Like, I'm literally just cutting down trees with a supercar, not even slowing down really, just barreling through them. And I was like, I would kind of find these tracks, this world, a lot more interesting if I had to be like, oh, you know, really scareful of like going into the mud or hitting a tree or something like that if I was in the wrong car. And, you know, obviously you never want to hit a tree. And like, you know, being careful of hazards, sticking to the roads, having to actually like be a bit wary whenever you had to go off-road and something that's not really designed for it. I would find that much more interesting. I'm not saying that you need to be realistic to the point of like engines overheating and stuff like that, or punctures, but I think there could be much more meaningful interactions with the landscape instead of just a bunch of people. Like when you play online Forza Horizon 4, it's literally just like a bunch of people driving in a straight line from checkpoint to checkpoint, just cutting across whatever terrain is in the way, unless it's a building. Like, that's the only thing they go around. And I just don't find that fun, sadly. Guitar Hero World Tour. I'm assuming this is standing in for all Guitar Hero games. S tier. Guitar Hero games are insanely good. I'm very sad that we don't get them anymore. But so good. So good. Half-Life 2. Half-Life 2, I'm going to put as an A tier. I think, again, I'm doing this list from like what are the games I like to play now. Half-Life 2 is a very old game. It's still holding up incredibly well. It's still doing incredibly well. And it's still fun. But it's nowhere near as good as it was. You know, stuff like the movement in that game isn't anywhere near as good. The writing is okay, but not spectacular. The animations aren't great. It doesn't look great anymore. But it's still like a super inventive game. And, you know, it's a classic. It's obviously really good. The original Half-Life, same sort of reason. I'd probably put in C tier now. Like, it's quite hard to play the original Half-Life now. Even if you play like Black Mesa and stuff, like the newer mods. It's quite hard to play those games. Just because it's part of that, like, old school FPS thing, where it's like, you know, you're comparing Half-Life to like Doom and Quake, the original Doom and Quake, then it's like, oh my god, it's incredible. But you're comparing it to like Call of Duty and Bioshock and stuff like that, and it's like, it's quite a lot harder to get into now. Halo 3. Halo 3 is probably like peak Halo, isn't it? Yeah, it's probably an A tier. Halo 3 is like, I don't know, I probably preferred Reach a little bit, but Halo 3 and Halo 3 ODST, just spectacular games. Really, really good. Sorry I'm not being very consistent with whether or not these games are count as whole series, but it's because if you look down the list, there's like, hey, we've got other Forza Motorsports and other Call of Duties, so it's, yeah, we can't always be doing it. Limbo, I would say probably a B tier. Super cool idea, very, very limited game, very simple game. It's like very, like a concept. I thought it was good. I don't think it quite deserves some of the acclaim that it got. I think there's a lot of other similar games that did very well. But it's definitely interesting. It's an interesting thing, and it's worth your time to play, 100%. We need to go super quick now, because I just realized I've got 15 minutes left. Mafia 3, D tier. Really cool setting, like being in New Orleans, love it. Cool, like, story. I think the opening of the story is really good. But then somehow it just became so tedious. Like, the fighting's tedious, the mission design is tedious. Like, it's really sad. Every now and then I reinstall Mafia 3 and I'm like, why don't I love this game? I should love it. It's like, you know, an open world, third person action game set in New Orleans. Like, this is going to be super cool. And then you play it and it's like, oh, this is quite slow. Portal 2 is S tier. Portal 2 is just an insanely good game. Like, the co-op's amazing, the single player's amazing. It's like a really, really good length. The story's a lot of fun, the writing's really good. All of the puzzles are really interesting. It's hard to do, hard to say you can't do it. Andy Summerfield, it's just 15 minutes before I stop the podcast normally. Normally I do an hour for these, so we only have to do it quickly. Rock Band 4. Rock Band 4, I'm gonna say Rock Band 4, to me, is A tier. I've never thought Rock Band was quite as good as Guitar Hero. And I know having the other instruments and stuff is cool, and when you've got like 4 people playing, it's a lot of fun. We used to do that quite a lot when I was at uni. And it is fun with 4 people, but I've never thought, I didn't really like the guitars as much as I did in Guitar Hero. And I've never quite liked the sort of way they do the characters and stuff like that, and the progression of it. I think that's just a personal taste thing. I'm not saying that Rock Band 4 is necessarily worse than Guitar Hero, but I didn't like it quite as much as Guitar Hero. Scream Ride is not a good game. I've played a little bit of Scream Ride. As someone that loves theme parks and roller coasters, there was not a lot to like in that. Sekiro, I'd put as a B tier game. I know Sekiro is a really good game. Again, I've never finished it. It's quite hard. I found it, like a lot of the FromSoft games, I find it gets a little bit kind of repetitive in that, you know, you're essentially learning, in that game more than the others probably, you're learning 1 or 2 skills and trying to perfect them. But then after you sort of get good at them, you're just doing the same thing over and over again. It's like I've watched gameplay of all the rest of the game, and I'm kind of like, nothing sold me on it of like, oh yeah, like this is something I really love. I think there was just a little bit less freedom than I would have liked in Sekiro. I think if they did a Sekiro 2, now they've done Elden Ring, and they learned some of the things from Elden Ring about, especially about the way different builds could work and stuff like that, it could be much, much better. It was a cool idea, but I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite Souls. Like, South Park: Stick of Truth, I'd put as a C tier. It was funny. It was fine. I played it all the way through. The combat and everything wasn't amazing, but it was like kind of funny. It had the problem that I think a lot of those sort of time games have, that South Park is hilarious for like 30 minutes at a time or 20 minutes, however long an episode is. And you could even go, the South Park movie was good for like an hour and a half. Playing a game that's like 20 hours long, it's like it starts to grate a little bit. I think if I had played that in like half an hour chunks, I probably would have enjoyed it more, but I think I finished the whole thing in like a week, and that's probably not so good. Right, Battlefront, bloody S tier. I'm constantly shocked at the hate that Star Wars Battlefront gets. We're just talking about the remake ones here, so we're talking about Battlefront 1. I'm kind of using this to talk about Battlefront 1 and 2. There was like a weird internet, I find it weird. As someone, I've talked a lot about microtransactions and game service and all stuff like that. There was an insane outrage over Battlefront 2 about the fact that when the game came out, you had to get these like random, I don't know what they were, holocrons or data discs or something in the game, and that would give you power ups for your characters, for your classes. And they were kind of random, and you could buy them, and that would make you more powerful. So it had like this sort of pay to win aspect. And when you kind of cut it out like that and just sort of like talk about it in abstract, it sounds really bad. That like, hey, if you want to be good at this game, you need to spend money to get all the good things. But in practice, as someone that played a ton of that game, that isn't really how it ever felt. I never ever felt like I was being killed by someone because they had spent more money than me. And in the Battlefront game, the Battlefront games aren't very competitive. You don't see like professional Battlefront players. You get people who are really good at the game, fine, like any game. But generally, people are just playing it, and it's like a fun Star Wars experience, and it's chaotic, and you have a good time playing it. And it's like it just never mattered. And like for all the things that game got right, like they looked insanely good, they sounded amazing, they had some really cool maps, they had really cool like use of the vehicles and the heroes and stuff like that. It got so much right, and it was so spectacular. And then all of that got overshadowed because people were like, well, in theory, this is pay to win, so it's a terrible game and terrible consumerism, and if you like it, you're a bad gamer. And it was just like, oh, I hated it. I hated that whole situation. It was just like, I thought those games were spectacular, and I wish we'd got more. There's definitely like bits of it that I preferred from the old Battlefront games. Like I kind of preferred it. Same with Battlefield, where you would have like a base that had the vehicles in, and you would go get the vehicles from the base and then take them into battle, rather than picking up like an icon or choosing it from a menu. I've always thought it was better when you had somewhere to like start off with. But in general, I thought those games did a spectacular job. It was super fun. I'm happy to go on record as saying Star Wars Battlefront is better than Black Ops Cold War or Call of Duty 4 or Black Ops 4 or whatever. Battlefront is an insanely good game, and it did everything it was trying to do very well. It's a really good, when I talk quite a lot about how I think games should be fun. I think the competitive side of big multiplayer first-person shooters is kind of silly. I understand the competitive side of games where it's 1v1, like so Street Fighter or StarCraft or stuff like that. I completely get the competitive side of that. I think that's loads of fun to watch. Probably not for me to play really, but I enjoy watching it. But when you start getting into like big multiplayer games, I think they should be more about fun than being super competitive. And Battlefront did that incredibly well. Like super good. Man, I want to play Battlefront. Never played Tacoma, so get rid of that. Division 2, I'm going to put up in A tier. Division 2 was super good. No, I'm going to put it in B tier. It's super fun. I don't like the bullet spongy enemies. A lot of the items, again, it has that problem of giving you tons of items that aren't that interesting. But it looks gorgeous. It plays really well. Loads of interesting, innovative ideas. Lovely world. Very cool. Very cool game. Skyrim. I mean, Skyrim has to be S tier. Skyrim's an insanely good game. So much freedom. So many cool little stories hidden away. Just an insanely generous game in a way that, like, not many games ever achieve that. It's hard to argue why Skyrim. Again, I suppose the combat isn't that great. The main story isn't that great, but it's just an incredible world to mess around with. Why did High Lord Terror say incorrect? What are you saying was incorrect? You have to give me a little bit more context, otherwise I can't understand. Titanfall 2, probably the best first-person shooter of all time. Titanfall 2 is insanely good, and it was a crime that it got overlooked so much. Such a shame. Battlefront being good. Oh, Battlefront is so much fun, and it's one of those weird things about like anecdotally as well. I've never understood it. Like everyone who I played Battlefront with had an incredibly good time and were astounded by it. And like people who don't even play games who have been in my house while I've been playing it have been like, "Oh my god, that looks good," and like and it's so much fun to play. Anyway, it's super accessible. Anyone can play it. Just Battlefront games are so good, and I find like there's a weird sort of snobbiness about those games where people get all wrapped up in their own heads about, like, well, technically you shouldn't be having fun with this because it's anti-consumer, blah, blah, blah. It's just nonsense. Utter nonsense. But oh well. I hold the controversial opinion that games should be fun, and Battlefront is such a huge amount of fun. Rainbow Six Siege. Rainbow Six Siege is very, very, very good. I just get really angry when I'm playing it, so I'm going to leave it A. I'm going to start plowing through these now. Counter-Strike, I'm going to say Counter-Strike is a D for me. And this is a very personal thing. I can't do Counter-Strike. I'm not fast enough at aiming. I'm not accurate enough. I don't like the way gunplay is in Counter-Strike. I understand loads of people love it. Good for them. Not for me. Unity, that's the French one, the French Revolution one. Probably a B tier. It's fine. It's a good game. It's definitely better than the first Assassin's Creed. It had lots of bugs at launch, but if you actually go back to it now, it's one of the best looking Assassin's Creed games. Absolutely beautiful game. And it was a bit too long, but it was cool. SSX, haven't played, well, I haven't played enough. I have played it. Thing. Octodad was a big disappointment, I think. I'll put that in D. Octodad was like very, very funny idea that used all of its best idea. It used all of its best bits in the first level, which is a really shame. It's just sorry, High Lord Terror saying Battlefront, the PvP was pure chaos and such beautiful Star Wars chaos. It just looked and played like the Star Wars fights that you see in the cinema, where it's just like loads and loads of soldiers fighting each other. You're just one of those soldiers. You're not the hero of this battle. You're just a part of this war. Absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. God, Battlefront's good. I'm gonna play some Battlefront later. I'm gonna try and reinstall it. It'll take forever to reinstall. The Escapists, I never thought was that good. I'm gonna put a D. Like, there's some cool things. It's one of those things where you can make your own fun. You can have a lot of entertainment value of that. Me and Terrific played a fair bit of it and had a good time of it. But I think the game is overall pretty limited. And again, it's one of those games where essentially you're trying to find ways to exploit things rather than telling your own story. I Am Bread. I mean, I've played it for like an hour. It was fine. It was a silly little game. There's a lot of these silly games now. Terraria is a very good game. Terraria is cool. I'd never loved it in the same way that I love Minecraft or something like that, but it's definitely kind of interesting. How many of these games? Oh my god, we've got so many games. Should we pick out some of the games I actually care about now rather than just plowing through them? Because we are not going to get through them. So let's go through games that I really, really care about. Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes. Just astounding game. What a game. Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes is one of the best use cases of VR that I've ever seen, but you can play it without VR. The idea, for anyone who doesn't know, is that it's a two-player game, but one person is at a computer with, and they can see a bomb in front of them, and they can interact with lots of little buttons and stuff, and it's kind of randomized what you have to do. And another person just has an instruction manual. You can print it out for maximum fun. They have an instruction manual, and they're just talking over voice with you. So you have to, if you're looking at a bomb, you have to talk through it with the person who's having the instruction manual, explain to them what you're seeing, and then they have to try and work out what that relates to in their instructions, and then tell you what to do. It's so much fun, so stressful, just an incredibly good game. Undertale, I'm going to say is an F. I've never liked Undertale, never been able to enjoy it, always thought it was bad. Super Hot, I'd say is an A game. Super Hot is incredible. It does exactly what it wants to do very well. It's really stylish. Super Hot VR in particular, really, really good. Warzone, let's put Warzone in general. I mean, Warzone, I'd say is an A tier. Like, I don't think it's in S tier. I don't think, you could argue that Warzone is up there with these games in terms of how accomplished it is in what it's trying to do. But it's definitely what it's trying to do is a lot of fun, and the social side of it has been a huge amount of fun. I just wish it was more polished. And it's never been polished. Like, there's never been a time when it's been polished. Right, what else? Wreckfest is really good. I'd say Wreckfest, it's like a C, maybe. Super fun. If any of you have played Destruction Derby or Flat Out, Wreckfest is like the spiritual successors of those. Really, really good fun. Fortnite, I think I would put in A tier. I'm not going to put it in S tier because I just don't find it, like, the shooting and the movement that much fun. But, like, for what it's doing some properly spectacular things. Fortnite's a very, very good game. But that's always a sign. If someone's being snobby about Fortnite because, like, oh, it's for kids, or like, oh, it's really basic, when you play a proper game like Warzone, then you can safely ignore that person's opinions forever because they're just nonsense. Fortnite is a lot of fun. Advanced Warfare is my favorite Call of Duty game. I'm putting that in S tier. Advanced Warfare was a spectacular game. The multiplayer was such a huge amount of fun. The single player campaign was really, really good. It was just an absolutely awesome game. And I'm sad that, again, we're probably never going to see something like it again because of the ridiculous reaction to it. And people are like, it's the worst game ever. Sledgehammer are the worst developers ever. Just like it was, I feel like the multiplayer in that was a little bit more refined than Infinite Warfare. I enjoyed it a little bit more. I just thought that was like peak Call of Duty multiplayer for me. That was perfect. Not a perfect game, but like perfect Call of Duty multiplayer, pretty much. Uncharted 4 is an interesting one. I would put Uncharted 4 in a C. It's like, it looked spectacular. The shooting felt pretty good, but it was just kind of boring. That says the art of Uncharted, which is a bit weird. I just found Uncharted oddly boring in a way that, like, The Last of Us wasn't. The Last of Us was really good. What other games have these should I put them in? Origins, an interesting one. Origins, I'll put in a B tier. I thought it was a really good Assassin's Creed game. I liked the fact that they changed stuff up. I thought the setting was spectacular. But it started this new trend of Assassin's Creed games of them being entirely too long. Like, just insanely too long. Just very silly. Right, well, how long we got? We haven't got very long left. Let's skip through to things we haven't talked about. We talked about lots of Call of Duty games. These are all kind of middling ones. Like, I thought Black Ops 3 is pretty good in terms of content. You get tons of stuff. It's good, but the campaign was bloody awful. World at War was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed that game. Probably played it more than any other Call of Duty game. It was fine. Civilization is very good. Animal Crossing's really good. Animal Crossing probably deserves to be in there. Let's put Animal Crossing up in an A tier. Animal Crossing's awesome. That's not necessarily my favorite Animal Crossing, but I'm using it to represent lots of Animal Crossing games. Cyberpunk and I'll Die on This Hill is a D tier game. There's a couple of cool things. It's a very cool looking setting. The story is very bad in my mind. The combat's bad. The RPG aspects are bad. The hacking is bad. People, like, I think they did a brilliant marketing thing of saying, like, oh, we know it's not very good because of all the bugs. It was not because of the bugs. The bugs were the least of that game's problems. Oh, Destiny 2. Okay, if we do have Destiny 2 separately, I'm putting that there and that there. Destiny 2 is better than Destiny 1. Right, what else is on here? Dark Souls. If it's the first Dark Souls game, again, I'd put it in like a C, maybe a B. No, yeah, maybe a B. It's good. It's definitely atmospheric and stuff like that. I think like Dark Souls 2 and 3 did a better job. They improved upon it in basically every way. What else have we got here that's good? Oh, Spider-Man. Spider-Man, I'm putting up an S tier. Spider-Man did what it wanted to do insanely well. I'm a little bit worried about the sequel because I think it'll just be more of the same. I hope they come up with interesting ways to make it more exciting. But like, for what it was, as a Spider-Man game, I'm not really sure how it could have been better than what it was. It was probably the last game I platinumed, actually. I really, really enjoyed that. Sea of Thieves, I'm going to put as an A tier. It's not perfect. Like, again, the combat's not very good. There's the movement and stuff is kind of not that entertaining. But Sea of Thieves is super, super good. What else have we got here? Snaky Bus. I've never played Snaky Bus. It looks like the sort of thing that I'd probably enjoy. Last of Us Part 2 is one of my favorite games of all time. Like, that's up there. These games are my favorite games of all time. Like, all of these games are up there as, like, insanely good. Just spectacular games. What else have we got here? Jedi Fallen Order, I thought was an A tier game. I thought it was really good. I'm going to do a playthrough of that. I don't know. Do you think I should do that on YouTube or on Twitch? Let me know in chat. Should I do it on YouTube or on Twitch? But I want to do a replaythrough of it before the new one comes out in a couple of weeks. So I might start that even tomorrow. I might do it. I might try and do it on quite a hard difficulty. Not the hardest difficulty, because apparently it sucks on hardest difficulty. But on one below that, just to see, make it like a bit more entertaining, make it a bit more exciting to watch. Oh, Grand Theft Auto 5 is an S tier. Easy S tier. Should I go through and pick out the other S tiers before we finish? Grand Theft Auto 5, easy S tier. Just spectacular game. Like, Rockstar know what they're doing. That game is so, so, so good. Dragon Age Origins is probably an A tier. I really like that. I thought that was very, very good. Horizon, I'd give like a C tier to. I've just never clicked with it, and I don't really know why. Don't know what's wrong with it. Kerbal Space Program, S tier. No, for the sake of polish, I need to put it with Fortnite and Warzone. Kerbal Space Program's never been polished enough, but just what a game. And the new one is super buggy, but I'm having such a good time for it. I've never really streamed very much Kerbal Space Program, but I play a ton of it off stream. Like, I play it so much. I definitely want to play a bit more of that. It's just that it's quite a slow game, and it looks quite boring to people who don't really know what's going on in it. Red Dead Redemption 2, obviously S tier. Just a spectacular game. I'd say like I probably like in terms of single player, I prefer Red Dead 2 to Grand Theft Auto, but then in terms of multiplayer, I prefer Grand Theft Auto. But they're both just again incredibly generous games. There's so much content, there's so much to do in them. Just utterly amazing games. Mafia 2 is really, really good. I'd put that up pretty high. Have we not got Mass Effect on here? Am I being stupid? I can't see it. Mass Effect, Mass Effect, Mass Effect. I'm like scanning my eyes across it and I can't see them for some reason. But yeah. Oh, Battlefront 2. There we go. Okay, we'll put this up there and then move Battlefront 1 down to A tier. I was using it to represent both. I think Battlefront 2 was better. I think Battlefront 2 is just insanely good game. Insanely good. The space combat was really good fun as well. Which I think. There you go. We'll use this as the Mass Effect trilogy, as like people were talking about in chat, the Legendary Edition. Like, if you get a chance to play Mass Effect Legendary Edition, I think it's on Game Pass now. Just bloody play it. It's one of the few times I've played through an entire series of games twice. I don't really like doing that ever. So many of these games I love, but I've never played through them a second time. Never played through Portal 2 twice. Never played through. I have played through Titanfall. Haven't played through Spider-Man twice. Haven't played through Last of Us Part 2 twice. Haven't played through Red Dead twice. But I have played through all of Mass Effect twice, and I loved it the second time. I think I loved it more the second time. Just, oh my god, that game's so good. Right, any other games that we're missing that are better, that deserve to be up in that S tier? Bioshock's really good, but I don't know if I'd put it in S tier. I'd put it in like A tier, maybe. Just there are some problems with it. Like, the second half of the game isn't anywhere near as good as the first, which is a real shame. I wish Andromeda had been good. I really wish that had been a better game. Anything else? Oh, Max Payne 2. Max Payne 2, I think I would probably put in an A tier because I'm talking about these games as they are now. At the time, I would have put in an S tier for sure. Max Payne 2 is an awesome game, and there's nothing else like it other than Max Payne 1, I guess. Max Payne 3 was a very different game for whatever reason. Oh, Knights of the Old Republic. Yeah, I'll put that in A tier again just because it's kind of dated now. I know they were doing the remaster, but I would say that's probably deserves to be there. I was down here, wasn't I? Metroid Dread was insanely good. I'd definitely put that in A tier. I thought that was really, really cool. Really, really good fun. Oh, Ocarina of Time is obviously S tier. Obviously S tier. Ocarina of Time's just spectacular. Everyone knows Ocarina of Time's really good. Dishonored 2, maybe an A tier. Maybe an A tier rather than S tier. Sorry, you can probably hear my mouse wheel scrolling funny. Control. I'm going to put that only just in an S tier, just because Control has the best sense of style and setting. It looks spectacular. The story's incredibly good. The setting's just the best setting I think there's ever been in a game. The combat does get a little bit repetitive, but I think I can forgive it just for how much I've thought about that game since it came out compared to anything else. Is like insane. Oh, World of Warcraft, obviously. Like, World of Warcraft is A tier for me, I think. Stuff I'd like to be better. I'd like the combat to be better. I'd like some of the progression to be better, but it's hard to deny that it's insanely good. Watch Dogs 2 was really good. That'd probably be an A tier, I think, for me. GoldenEye now, I would put down in a C tier. I think GoldenEye at the time was spectacular, but I mean, you can play it now. It's on Game Pass. It's not that good anymore. It's just not that much fun. It's still got like a bit of nostalgia going for it, but I don't think it's that great. The Hitman game's insanely good. Oh, Splinter Cell. If they had Pandora Tomorrow, Splinter Cell Pandora Tomorrow, I would put in like, if I'm playing it now, probably A tier. But God, at the time, I absolutely adored that game. Prey is A tier. Ghost of Tsushima, A tier. Planet Coaster, A tier. Just trying to check there's nothing else that I've missed that I think is really, really spectacularly deserves to be up there as an S tier game. Oh, Space Marine definitely deserves to be up there. How have they not got Pandora Tomorrow on here? Pandora Tomorrow is the best one. No, that's okay. So that's my tier list for now of the best games of all time. Just the objective truth. No, this is my subjective thing. But these games, if you haven't played any of these games, I strongly suggest you give them a try. They are all super, super good. Some of them, like Star Wars Battlefront, I think you kind of need to be into Star Wars to really get the most out of them. But all of them are just properly spectacular games. I wish I could stream Guitar Hero. I do still have my guitars. I've got, like, it's actually... Funnily enough, the guitars I have here, I've got guitars to my hand that are Rock Band guitars, not Guitar Hero games, not Guitar Hero ones. I do have a Guitar Hero one somewhere. I'm not entirely sure where it is, but yeah, definitely worth playing any of these if you haven't already. So anyway, I'm going to stop it there. Thank you so much, everyone that's been watching. I might be back on streaming a little bit later. I don't know. I might do some Call of Duty Ranked. I might do some Jedi Fallen Order. So let me know about that. What you would prefer. Definitely make sure you check out the podcast tomorrow. I'm thinking we're going to talk about game difficulty tomorrow. I think that'd be quite an interesting one. Got a few thoughts on it from some recent games and talking about Dark Souls, stuff like that. Basically, the big question of should all games have an easy mode or should games always be challenging? And sort of how might that apply to multiplayer and stuff like that. That's what we're going to be talking about tomorrow at 9 a.m. Looking forward to it, and I will see all of you there. Thanks so much for watching, and goodbye.